All right, let's look at Excel. This is Francois, and I'm going to show you Excel, but Power Query, which is a plugin almost inside Excel. And I'm saying almost because a lot of people just don't know that there is Power Query, which is a really cool tool inside Excel. Anyway, let's get cracking. So, reduce this guy. We're going to open my Excel spreadsheet, which I have put here. Let's go to files, and I have an Excel. So first thing first, I'm going to open Excel, but as you can see, I'm opening it in Teams. So if we want to do advanced manipulation of data, so I can see what it looks like. However, I'm not going to try to look for the menu here and manipulate. I'm going to go ahead and open it in desktop app directly because Excel has more functionalities. Here we go. The same Excel spreadsheet has been opened in my full app, right? This is the full Excel. So what I want to do and what I want to demonstrate really is that I'm going to modify the data here. So it means that I may, for instance, even sort agency. You can see that I'm going to sort by cities, job function. I will sort it possibly alphabetically, and maybe I'm going to regroup things like this, right? But if I do it in this data source, then the next time someone send me the data, again, I have to do it again, right? So that would be a little bit annoying because every month or every week, my colleague give me an export of this data set, and I'm going to have to do exactly the same step in Excel to be able to sort things out. So for instance, just to illustrate again, right? So I have this data set. I would like to just very simply sort by a different column. So if I want to sort by, well, by income, let's say, I want to see very quickly who has the largest salary in my company. So that's something I do once, but the next time they send me the file, boom, it goes back to what it was, and then I have to do it again, and then again, and again, and again. Okay. So that's why they is Microsoft created our Power BI. So I'm going to get the data. So for that, you go to data, the tab data, because you're thinking that this data that is here, I need to manipulate it. So it's really the word manipulation and transformation. So I will get the data. So either I have my data that is in a file, usually it would be in Excel, but as I always say, it could be somewhere else, right? It could be a database, distant, it could be your HI, your SAP, etc., etc. So you're going to acquire the data, but I'm lucky, I'm exactly here. Within this, this range of data, that's where I want to acquire the data. So I'm going to do this. There's this tiny icon that you can see from table or get data from the order source and from table range. Of course, your icons at the top might be bigger when you are on a bigger screen. So let's do table range, table/range, which is this one. As you can see, it's not even a table. So my colleague didn't do a good job because they should have at least defined this as a table. So here it tells me, well, is it this table that you want to do? Yes, and it has header. And trust me, it's the only thing that we're going to modify in Excel. The only thing that we are doing is to define it as a table. So now it's opening Power BI. So Power BI is showing me the same data, right? But in its own interface, which is called Power. Did I say Power BI? Power Query, okay? Erase, rewind. We're going to call it Power Query because it's written at the top. The reason I made a lapsus linguae is because obviously we may use it in Power BI to display as nice report and charts. But for now, all we care is down the left hand side is just showing me table 1, and table 1, yes, is exactly the table we have in Excel. So we cannot go back in Excel, but if I move my window around, you can see I'm saying we cannot because it's frozen until we get out of Power Query. So here is Excel, and I can see that it's exactly the same data, right? Data source. And the name of this table should be table 1 because it was just created for me very quickly. Okay, so let's look at Power Query now. What we can do in Power Query, as I said, is sorting things around and maybe even make some calculation, why not? So let's look at income, for instance. The column income, I can select it, and I'm going to make sure that I do not take anything that is blank. So you can see here, there's no blank, but just in case, because next month my colleague is going to send it to me, and sometimes I know that they've done it in the past, they used to send blanks. So I'm going to remove empty. And every time I do a change, one change only, it's going to add me as a step. So look in this, on the right hand side, query settings, we have our table. We could rename it saying Power Query 1, and here I have all the steps. So the first thing it does is getting the source, which is Excel. Let's go and check it. So if I click on source, here you can see that it's the current workbook and the name is table 1. So that's exactly what I have in Excel. If you were to get a distant workbook, then maybe even on SharePoint, of course the whole address here will be different. Then it's doing something magical, which is change type. So let's have a look between source. Look at the column here. I can see that the date is not yet recognized. And then we have here some income. It's going to be a number, but for now it's still a text. So what it does in change type is recognizing the date, recognizing some numbers as number. We may change it again. And then later I did my own filtered bonus because I wanted to remove the empty. So this is what I'm gonna, well, this is what we have done. I can even see in the formula, by the way, see, anything that is equal to null or the income is equal to double bracket, double quote, then it's going to select it and filter out. What I like to do as best practice is right click on the step, click rename, and here I will say remove empty, and then it was called income. That's it. It doesn't change anything in the step, but it's nice to read it. Okay, let's continue a bit, just very basic for now. So as I said, we want every time that we have this data, I want to sort it. So I'm going to put the top salary at the top. But now we can see that 4,000, etc. Depending on the country, you may want to define this as a thousands, right? So we're going to change this, and you can actually sometimes do it just by a right click, and you would change the type or transform, and then you look at types. So if we are a text or a number, this is where you have to look at the specific change. So here we're going to make it as 1,000, right? Well, every now and then we need to go between Power Query and Excel. So we have to consider that, for instance, income, it is actually the right type, because now we are into a decimal number, but the 1,000 separator is going to be dealt with by Excel. So let's have a look. You can make as many changes as you want in steps, then close and load. It goes back to Excel. It loads all our changes. Here we go. On the right hand side, you can see my Power Query. And because we were in income, it's here that we're going to look at the 1,000 separator. So if I click on home, now we can add the comma. So why do we do that? Because this pQuery is not the source. It's really the result of my transformation. The source was this one. And if we go back to this, the only thing that happened is that we made it as a table. So it has a different color, etc. But the result is pQuery. So again, income is not sorted. The whole table is not sorted by income, whereas pQuery, everything has been sorted by income. So we can also change our data again if we right click, edit. So we go back to Power Query. Remember that anything we do in Excel is context sensitive. So if I click in the middle of this table, this is the Power Query transformation table. So on the top, We have table design, of course, where you can change the color, but query, and in the query, you can see all the attributes related to Power Query. So if I click on edit, of course, it opens Power Query Editor. So that we can make sure we add some rules before we go back into Excel. So think of it as Excel is where we're going to see the data source, but maybe the data source is in a different database. And therefore Power Query modifies all this, manipulate the data, and it needs to display it somewhere. So it will display it back into either Excel or directly Power BI. So that's the important bit. We can use Power Query within Power BI, manipulate the data, transform the data, and then load it back again. So I hope it was a useful, quick intro. I mean, quick meaning that normally I would do a whole training for that, for Power Query, step by step. But this is only to show you that Power Query is actually a very affordable tool. We just have to understand that it's all made by steps, and we can easily change, remove the steps, no problem. This is Francois helping you with technology, and if you have any more requests, please like, subscribe, send a comment with your additional request. Bye.